Today on Clergy Corner, we have a great show planned for you. Chaplains from the St. Barnabas Medical Center have stopped by, and they're here to talk about spiritual care and medicine. So the prescription for now is to stay tuned and find out how spiritual care and medicine partner up. Live from Studio A, you are watching Clergy Corner. Good afternoon, Livingston, and welcome to Clergy Corner. I am Dan Martian, pastor at the Presbyterian Church of Livingston, and your host. Please welcome to our show Reverend Ron DePasquale from the Full Gospel Church. And Ron is wearing two hats today. Ron is also the president of the St. Barnabas Chaplaincy Board. Sitting next to him is Reverend Thomas Craig, and Tom is director of Pastoral Care at St. Barnabas Medical Center.
Thank you. It's a joy to be with you today.
Yeah, Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited, and you brought your crew with you. Would you like to introduce your crew to us today?
I will. It's a blessing to have our chaplains, some of them here today. St. Barnabas Chaplaincy Service Incorporated supplies Reverend Dr. Valerie Griffin as one of our Protestant chaplains. Also, the Archdiocese of Newark supplies 3 Roman Catholic chaplains, one of whom is Sister Gail Penkowski.
Sister, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
And the Joint Chaplaincy Committee of Greater Metro West supplies 2 Jewish chaplains, one of whom today with us is Rabbi Stanley Asikoff. And to my extreme left is Janice Hogrief. She is one of our 3 certified music practitioners at St. Barnabas Medical Center who works out of our department.
And we're going to be hearing from Janice in a few moments, and she has her harp with her, and she's going to be playing some spiritual music and healing music that I believe, Janice, you take around to the residents and the patients to help them in their healing process, and part of the pastoral care that you have to offer. My question, Tom, is what is meant by pastoral care?
Well, pastoral care, a lot of people think of clergy in the hospital just doing some religious role, like taking the sacraments to patients. And indeed, we do that. But there's far more to it. It's also the spiritual care of our patients. We care for them as far as helping them in the midst of the crises of being ill, to help them discover strength and meaning and support. And one of the big parts of what we do as chaplains is we go to our patients to affirm that they have somebody with them in the midst of this challenge of being ill.
Brings a lot of comfort to them, doesn't it?
Yes, I believe it does.
Now, do you go to specific people, or how do you go to the patients in the hospital beds or the staff, and how do you minister to a wonderful hospital that we have in our community here in Livingston? And the pastoral department is part of that wonderful healing part that is brought here. So how have you tried to integrate both the medicine and the spiritual care?
Well, it's very exciting because we work as a team with the medical team of the hospital. We receive referrals from the nurses and physicians and social workers to go visit patients who have spiritual needs or religious needs. But I want to say this. I think it's key to recognize St. Barnabas Medical Center has affirmed the spiritual, emotional, and physical care of patients for a long, long time. Indeed, this year is the 150th anniversary of the founding of St. Barnabas Medical Center. And it's interesting to note in this brochure that was given to us, regarding the history of St. Barnabas. It says in 1865, when the Civil War ended, was also a special year that a group of women from Episcopal Grace Church and Christ Church of the Episcopal Diocese of Newark, known as the Ladies' Society of St. Barnabas, began caring for a patient named Eliza Titus. These women, guided by their faith to be compassionate and caring and supportive of people in need, cared for patients in Newark, the first being Eliza Titus. And that Eliza Titus donated his home as the beginning of St. Barnabas Medical Center.
So it started out with the church. Now we have gravitated toward a very interfaith type of situation. And we have people that are in the hospital beds that have no religious upbringing at all. You know, they're religiously unaffiliated, or somehow they've been hurt by their religious institution and they don't want anything to do with God. You're on the front lines, folks. And how have you integrated all of the faiths into the pastoral care? I'd like to go to the Rabbi. And Rabbi, it's so good to have you with us today. How have you integrated and been a part of this wonderful pastoral care department? And when did you all start?
Well, I only started about 2 years ago at St. Barnabas. I was the rabbi of the Jewish Center of West Orange, B'nai Shalom, for 39 years. But during that time, I took the professional courses required to be a professional chaplain or a professional spiritual caregiver. So I think the first thing to say is very important to note that all of the clergy on our staff are professionally trained chaplains. There is a specific curriculum, training, and certification, and everyone has that training.
You mean it's different than a relative or a friend coming to visit, or just even a clergy person from the parish coming to visit?
It is.
Well, how
there
is
is
it
a
different?
difference between a social visit, where one comes in and says, how are you, what's doing, catch up, be there to entertain or distract someone from their problems. Chaplain walks into the patient and is concerned to find out where that person is, what's happening with you. We kind of create an invisible space where we say to a patient, we are here for you. What's happening? How are you doing? And it is amazing to see the response that you hear from people. Not only the physical ailment that brought them to the hospital, but concerns they have about trying to give meaning to what's happening, put it all together. And we are trained to listen with an inner ear and to hear what is behind the story that the patient relates and help them look at their own inner resources so that they can find comfort, hope, connection, and meaning. And I'd like to add here that chaplaincy is also equally important at the joyous times in life, because we don't only chaplain people who have problems or who are suffering. We chaplain people who in the hospital have had great victories, a kidney transplant, a birth.
Oh, okay. So you're celebrating those transitions in life.
We're celebrating those transitions. We're helping people transition at the difficult times.
Sister, how has it been for you being as part of the chaplain department?
It's been at times challenging, but it has also been at times very rewarding, because when you enter a room or the space where the patient is, you're there not to just be, but to find out how you can support and get under and help the person that is in the bed or sitting there or shows that tear, like, well, what's it all about?
Where's that coming from?
Where is it coming from, you know, and how can we talk about it and help you in your journey right now?
What do you do with those tough patients that don't really want to see you and are very, very angry, and thank goodness they're not going to throw a bedpan. I hope they don't.
Yeah.
How
Can't report that.
let's
yet.
not start. How do you deal with the tough patients?
Well, I have to say, when I am confronted by someone who doesn't want to, let's say, talk or not now, I usually just say, well, I'm just here to say hello and see if I can, get you anything in any way. And I'm just here to talk. And I remember saying that to one patient because she had said, no, I don't need you right now, get out, get out. I said, okay, I just came to say hello and to talk with you. She said, oh, really? Sit down. So
That's great.
Some of it's the misperception of what pastoral care is. They think you're coming to push religion on them, you're pushing some sacramental rite, but when they realize that you're there to be present with them as a human
Boy,
being.
that's a big teachable moment right there, because within a split second, they go from a misconception and reframing that to a real positive part of what pastoral care is all about.
And there have been people I've spoken with who are atheists who, had that initial concern, oh, you don't need to come in here. But to be able to say, I'm not here to push anything on you, I just want to see how you are. Sometimes that makes all the difference.
Yeah. Now, another part of the chaplain department is what Ron serves. He serves the president of the board of, it used to be the Protestant chaplaincy, but we changed that because I used to be on that board. And during the time that I was on, we changed it from the Protestant chaplaincy to really St. Barnabas Chaplaincy Board. Ron, how is the board affecting the ministry here amongst the colleagues that are representative?
Well, that's the joy of this particular board, because I've been on many different boards, and you say that sometimes it could be a bad word, but we spend our time thinking of ways to support our chaplains, thinking of ways to bless the pastoral volunteers that work, there's over 60 of them that volunteer their time to be with people. And can you imagine, that's what we spend saying, what can we do to support them, to help them, to thank them? And that's where a lot of our time comes, Dan, is just being able to come up with ideas to say, what more can we do? And working with Reverend Tom and Reverend Val, we are just continuing in helping them. I look at it as when Moses had his arms down during the time of battle and needed those arms up. That's really how I look at our board. We're just here to support the arms of this chaplaincy department and do the best we can to support them.
Now, why did it change from the Protestant chaplaincy board to really the board?
Well, we recognize that there was more than just Protestants that were represented in the hospital. And having under one umbrella this whole idea, again, supporting not just one particular group, but being inclusive of all we can do to help, it just expanded the mission that started so many years ago when this board came to fruition.
It's a lot of work you guys are doing. Is it just with patients?
Indeed not. I mean, we are supportive not only of the patients, but their families, and very much in particular for the staff of the medical center. We have many staff people that recognize the gift that we bring to them of confidential, caring support. And people come to our offices from the staff to say, we need some support here, either personally or as they've been working with patients. It can be a burden. Sometimes we're looking at staff members who might have dealt with a particularly difficult situation, and we will address them in the hallway and say, do you need to talk? And they're very welcoming of that. So.
One of the stories, Valerie, that you told has really touched my life, and it has stayed with me all of these years. And Valerie is the part-time chaplain at the hospital. And you said that your job doesn't start when you enter the doors. It starts when the gate goes up and you drive into the parking lot. Would you like to share a story or two with us about when does your day start at the hospital?
I found out that wearing my badge in the parking lot would always attract people to me. And I said, I'm gonna take my badge off in the parking lot and put it on at the door. But I found that people found me as a magnet in the parking lot, and they would start, as I got out of my car, to start to tell me about why they were at the medical center. If it was for same-day surgery, or if they were coming because a loved one was critically ill, or if someone had died. So from my car into the lobby of St. Barnabas. I have already started my job, and I was teasing Reverend Craig, I need a time machine wherever I park my car, because my job officially starts in the parking lot.
And Val, if I could add to that, one of the things I found is that when we go out of the Pastoral Care Department office to visit patients, all of us, our radar is up. You see someone in the hallway who looks uncomfortable, who looks lost. We stop, we introduce ourselves, and more often than not, there is a story of a family member coping with an illness, problems. Sometimes you see someone actually crying. We stop. And you know, a lot of people feel very uncomfortable. Someone's there crying, I don't know what to do. We stop. I'm so-and-so, what can we do for you? We're here for you.
Right.
And it makes a big difference.
There's a lot of different chaplain departments in many different hospitals. What makes St. Barnabas Medical Center Chaplain Department special?
I would say, to be honest, what makes our department special is that we are on the same page together. We recognize how important it is to care for each other and to care for our patients and to meet them where they are. We are united as a team to care for everyone in the hospital. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because our department has been rated by the, in a survey of internal customers, the department heads and managers, and they've rated us very, very high, at top of the survey for serving the hospital community, and we're very proud of that.
Yeah, it seems like the polls out there about hospitals and the high marks of hospitals is that you got to have your patient care at the top. You don't have a choice anymore. And I believe the pastoral care and the spiritual care is at its all-time high, because people in those times need to be connected with other people and caring for other people. And I believe that's part of what is termed as spiritual care. Now, another portion that is part of the healing is music. When did this healing music all start? And we're going to have Janice play for us a piece of wonderful music in a few seconds. But I'd like to ask Tom, when did this evolve to be part of the ministry?
It's been quite a journey, actually. It was about 10 years ago. I was doing a lecture at one of the local churches about pastoral care, and a professional singer came to me and she said, you know, I have been using my music to care for my mother who is dying and has been dying. And she said it has been such a comfort to her. And she said, I wonder, do you think there's a place to use music at the bedside of the patients in the hospital? So I invited her to explore that as a volunteer, and she did that. She was so enthusiastic about, and others were enthusiastic about her caring music presence at the bedside, that there was a grant supplied to the hospital for music. It has evolved over time. We noticed that there are certifying agencies like healing music practitioner agencies that will certify musicians to go to the bedside to appropriately use music for the patients. Maybe Janice, you could say more about what that's like.
Yes, I think that the pastoral care and harp therapy are a perfect marriage. They really just go tremendously well together. I've been in healthcare all my life, all my adult life, and it's just something like I've never seen before in the responses from the patients. And healing, the harp itself is one of the oldest instruments, and it goes back even to biblical times when David played for Saul, who was feeling distressed. It's quoted as an evil spirit feeling on him. And when David played the harp, he felt relieved and refreshed, felt well, and the spirit had left him and he felt better. And really, that's a lot of what I experience from people. They feel a lightness, and usually they'll express like that they feel so much better, and all that really has happened. It's been a one-on-one experience.
So Janice, why the harp or maybe the guitar and not like bongo drums or some percussion? Why are there more string instruments?
Well, the harp in particular, there's many things to it. First of all, the vibration itself is actually very healing to the body. The timbre of the harp, and the fact that it's played, the way that it's played with your hands. And I don't carry any music, I play directly to the patient, and I think that's what the connection is. I'm basically play in the moment for that person. Playing right to them.
Okay.
And it's a spiritual connection, yes. And I feel that they get the moment. You're important.
Yeah.
I see you, and I'm here to provide something pleasant.
And
healing.
Janice right now is going to play us a piece of music. Janice. Janice, thank you so much. Let's give her a hand, please.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thanks.
At the end of the show, she is going to be playing for us again as the credit rolls. But I'm in the studio audience at this time, and we do have a question for the panel from our studio audience.
Yes, I do have a question. I want to know, how does the HIPAA law affect the chaplain's department?
Tom, would you like to answer
I'd be
that?
glad to, sure. Well, as you know, HIPAA is a privacy law that makes sure that our patients are protected so that their personal health information, including their names and identities, are not disseminated out into the community. So we keep confidentiality very important in our department. When we speak with a patient, we are not free to share that with anybody outside the hospital. Now, if indeed a person wants their clergy person to visit, we would ask permission, verbal permission from the patient. May we call that clergy person? That's the only time when we would be permitted to share that information that the patient is there outside to the clergy.
Tom, if I could just add to that, very often we may hear from a clergy person, so-and-so, a member of my church or synagogue, was in the hospital. Why didn't you let me know? And the answer, as Tom has said, is we'll ask permission, but if a patient says, I want my privacy, I don't want my clergy person to know, or sometimes they say, don't call because he or she is too busy, I don't want to bother them, we cannot call. So for people who are watching, who may come to the hospital sometimes, please don't say, my clergy person is too busy, don't call them. Your clergy want to know, they want to be with you, but without the patient's permission, we cannot share that information.
Thank you. We have another question, And sir, what is your name?
My name is Sam Lee.
And Sam, what is your question?
May I ask a question to Reverend Valerie, I think it is?
Yes, Sam.
What motivates you, or what are some things that keep you inspired to connect with people and to care for them?
Wow. In the beginning, Reverend Craig said that our referrals come from the staff or any other discipline in the hospital. But when a family member calls into the office and says that my mother or my loved one is not really religious or spiritual, but I believe that they will benefit from a visit from the chaplain. And for me to be entrusted with that assignment, if you will, and to go into a room with someone who has an opportunity to unpack and to journey and to look for meaning in the midst of what's going on. And then Sister Gail has said about sometimes going into a room where there's a challenge of not wanting to be in the room. I have played bingo. I have watched Springer. I have watched the soap operas. Anything to give them the trust of knowing that I'm here to journey with you. Thank you.
That's great. You know what I'm really finding out from today's show is that medicine and spiritual care do connect with one another because both do connect with people. One helps with the physical, but the emotional, the spiritual, letting people be themselves, the integrity and dignity, that's all part of spiritual care. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Tom and the crew, Ron, thank you so much. And thank you very much for being in our studio audience. And for those who have gathered at home, thank you so much for watching. Until we meet again, may God's love be with you. And now Janice has some special music as we play the credits and as we end the show. God's peace be with you.
Packers. Vikings. Packers. Vikings. Vikings.
Red state, blue state, vegan.
Optimists.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities,
Live
our families,
united.
even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give.